It had been a few years since I married Mark. His son, Nick, from his first marriage, had become a part of our lives long before our wedding. When I first met Nick, he was reserved and withdrawn. At the time, I wasn't sure how to interact with him, what my role should be in his life as a stepmother. I knew that becoming a parent to a teenager was no easy task. I didn't want to overstep my bounds, but also didn't want to stay too distant. Nick was 16, a teenager teetering on the edge of childhood and adulthood. He had always been passionate about music and sports, but there was something deeper beneath the surface. Mark often mentioned that Nick had struggled with the loss of his mother, who had passed away a few years earlier. I could see the void it left in his life. Mark was a great father, but there was no replacing the bond between a mother and son. It wasn't until one evening, when Nick came to me with an unexpected request, that I realized just how much I had underestimated our relationship. It was a Friday evening, and Mark had gone out with some friends. Nick and I were alone in the house. I was sitting on the couch in the living room, scrolling through my phone when Nick entered. His face was unreadable, a mixture of uncertainty and something I couldn't quite place. He stood by the door for a moment, clearly gathering his thoughts before speaking. "Hey, can we talk for a minute?" he asked, his voice quieter than usual. I glanced up, pausing my phone. His tone caught my attention. "Of course, Nick. What's going on?" I patted the seat next to me on the couch, inviting him to sit. Nick hesitated, shifting uncomfortably. His fingers fidgeted nervously with the hem of his hoodie. "Well, I've been thinking about trying something I've never done before." At this, I raised an eyebrow, wondering what could have sparked this sudden desire for change. "What do you mean by something?" "I want to try cooking." "Like really cooking?" "I know it sounds dumb, but I've been watching some food videos online, and it looks fun. I know you like to cook, so I was wondering if maybe you could show me how to make something." I was taken aback. Of all the things I had expected him to ask for, cooking had never crossed my mind. But there was something endearing about his vulnerability. Nick was always so reserved, never one to ask for help unless he absolutely needed it. His request, though small, felt significant. "Of course, I'd love to help you," I said with a smile. "Cooking can be a lot of fun. What did you have in mind?" Nick's face brightened a little at my response. "I've been watching videos on how to make homemade pasta. It looks complicated, but also amazing. I thought maybe you could show me how." I laughed softly, impressed by his choice. Homemade pasta wasn't something people just whip up on a whim, especially not for a first attempt. "Homemade pasta? That's ambitious, but I think you can do it. We can give it a try." Nick smiled, the shy teenager inside him momentarily disappearing. "Really? You'll help me?" "Of course," I reassured him, feeling a surge of pride. It wasn't just about the cooking. It was about him opening up to me, asking for help, and trusting me enough to share something personal. That meant more than any dish we'd make. The following Saturday, we gathered the ingredients in the kitchen: flour, eggs, olive oil, and a pinch of salt. I guided Nick step by step, showing him how to mix the dough and knead it until it became smooth and elastic. At first, he struggled to get the consistency right, his hands awkwardly moving the dough around. I could tell he was frustrated, but instead of giving up, he pushed through. "Here, let me show you," I said, gently taking his hands in mine to guide him through the motions. "You want the dough to feel soft but not sticky. You've got this." Nick took a deep breath and tried again, this time with more focus. I watched as he slowly began to grasp the technique, his face lighting up with each small victory. After a while, he was confidently rolling the dough out and cutting it into perfect strips. I was proud of him for sticking with it, and it made me realize how much more there was to Nick than the quiet, reserved teenager I had first met. Hours passed as we worked together in the kitchen. Nick was focused, determined to get everything just right. We laughed, exchanged stories, and in those moments, something shifted between us. It wasn't just about the pasta anymore, it was about the connection we were building. Nick was opening up in ways I hadn't expected, and I could sense that he was starting to feel comfortable around me. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of rolling, cutting, and cooking, we sat down at the table to taste our creation. Nick picked up a fork and twirled the pasta, his eyes wide with disbelief as he took his first bite. He chewed slowly, savoring the flavor, before looking up at me with a stunned expression. "This is amazing," he said in disbelief. "I can't believe we made this." I smiled, feeling an overwhelming sense of pride in him. "I told you you'd be able to do it. See? You just had to trust yourself." Nick's face softened, and he looked down at his plate for a moment. I could tell he was thinking about something deeper. Then, without warning, he looked up at me, his expression serious. "Thanks," he said quietly. "I didn't think I could do it, but I'm glad I tried." His words hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just about the pasta or the fact that we had cooked together. It was about Nick taking a chance on himself, stepping out of his comfort zone, and discovering something new. And it was about him sharing that moment with me. It felt like a turning point in our relationship, a step towards something deeper than I had imagined. We spent the rest of the evening cleaning up, talking about everything and nothing. Nick opened up more about his life, about how he missed his mom, how he sometimes felt lost, and how he didn't always know where he fit in the world. It was the most we had ever talked about anything other than school or sports. "You know," he said, his voice almost a whisper, "I always thought cooking was something for grown-ups, or for people who were really good at it. But I did it. We did it." I nodded, my heart swelling with pride. "Yeah, you did. And you did it because you believed you could. That's the most important thing." As the evening wound down, Nick stood up from the table, a small smile on his face. "I think I'm going to try more things," he said, almost to himself. "I don't want to keep being afraid of trying stuff." I couldn't have been more proud of him. He wasn't just talking about cooking anymore. He was talking about life, about growth, and about finding his way in the world. It was a moment I would never forget, when Nick finally allowed himself to believe in his own potential. "Good. Keep trying. I'm here for you," I said, feeling more connected to him than I ever had before. Nick walked away with a newfound sense of confidence, leaving me to reflect on everything that had happened. I had always known that being a stepmother was about more than just discipline and rules. It was about being there, building trust, and helping each other grow. That night, Nick had taken a step toward discovering who he really was, and I had been lucky enough to witness it. And for that, I was truly speechless.